But what I see on the bigger chart is that we do have what's called a bear flag formation. I
Hmm.
would say that investors, if you're looking at a safety trade to offset inflation, that's not quite where Bitcoin is just yet. You have to wait a little while for it to mature as an asset, and then eventually you will get in that situation. So I actually have, over the next 6 to 12 months, I think Bitcoin could be headed to 20,000 or even sub 20,000. That's where I would start to be worried that you're going to see a bigger fall on Ethereum, potentially taking you down to the 1700 area here, or even maybe as low as 1500 right down here. What we saw is the market selling off in anticipation of a number that might even be worse than the market expected. And then you saw Bitcoin doing the same thing. All the cryptos were dumping out. We actually hit a
Yep.
very key level on Bitcoin, just piercing the 40,000 level. And I always
Mhm.
look at the charts and I say to myself, you know what? Are the charts hitting support here where you usually bounce with support? Does that
Mhm.
tell us that we might get maybe a number that's slightly better than the market anticipates? And sure enough, that's exactly what we got today. So then you're getting a small bounce in Bitcoin here. Again, but I mean, let's be fair, the number is horrendous, right? I mean,
Yeah.
inflation 8.5%, but at the same time, the market was getting very nervous about maybe a 10 handle on the number. Yeah, so I think it's important for investors to still understand that Bitcoin is a risk asset, right? It trades almost tick for tick with the Nasdaq 100. It trades very similar to what Tesla does. If you
Mhm.
actually match up the Tesla chart and the Bitcoin chart, it's very similar when it was making its highs around that same period. So I think we have to remember that if we're anticipating a scared market where we're scared of inflation, we're scared of recession, and the tech stocks do take a hit. In the near term, I do expect further downside in Bitcoin. Now, again, I am long. I actually did buy long just yesterday in the evening off this 40,000 level, just for a
Mhm.
quick little trade up here. But what I see on the bigger chart is that we do have what's called a bear flag formation. Bear flag formation is essentially a big down move like we've seen here. So you can see this big down move, and then look at this kind of channel that we're stuck in. And ultimately, when you look at 1,000 of these charts or 10,000 of this formation, the odds favor a move to the downside. So I
Mm.
would say that investors, if you're looking at a safety trade to offset inflation, that's not quite where Bitcoin is just yet. You have to wait a little while for it to mature as an asset, and then eventually you will get in that situation. So I actually have, over the next 6 to 12 months, I think Bitcoin could be headed to 20,000 or even sub 20,000 before it finally makes that bottom. I do think after that it starts to mature into the digital gold, and you will see it far outpace the returns on gold in the next 5 to 10 years, easily surpassing 100,000, maybe even 500,000. But short term, it trades with technology. When people get scared, you see Bitcoin fall, and I think that will continue at least this year.
Does ETH trade any differently in this kind of scenario,
It,
especially
it,
with
it,
ETH 2.0 coming out?
Let's take a quick look at the Ethereum chart here. And we can see, and you're right, Ethereum has a chance with this 2.0 kind of switch over to be potentially maybe a performer that does a little bit better. One of the concerns I have is this longer term trend line. So as long as we hold above this trend line on a technical basis, Ethereum looks fine to me. Maybe it retests this line. That would be a good buying opportunity where you could keep a very tight stop in the underbelly. But that's the one thing that you want to monitor. If this yellow trend line breaks, that's where I would start to be worried that you're going to see a bigger fall on Ethereum, potentially taking you down to the 1700 area here, or even maybe as low as 1500 right down here. So again, as long as you stay above this line here, I think it's fine. I think maybe we'll have to see how it reacts with the new version that's coming out. There's obviously a use case for Ethereum. It's being used a ton now. I think that does give it quite a bit of value. But again, the charts to me are always paramount. They're always the thing that I'm going to pay attention to. So if that yellow line breaks, I'm going to run for cover.
Now, if you look at something like a Solana, where are you seeing that kind of project go in the near to short term, as well as the long term for an altcoin like that one?
Yeah, so near term, and I'll throw up my chart again here, is the near term on Solana. I was a buyer yesterday, right around $100.
Okay.
Same thing. You can see this big pivot point right here, and price broke out, and it's retraced to that. So in the near term, I am long here. I'm looking for at least to move back north of 110. It's already gone about half that distance.
Yeah.
Again, just a short term swing trade for me. Ultimately, again, it's the big question is, as much as I think Solana has a big future to it. But the question is, does it still in panic and fear if we do get the Federal Reserve to kind of come in here and really start hiking by 50 basis points, and you see interest rates, let's say, go on the 10-year go over 3%, the stock market, let's say, goes down another 20%. Where does that put stocks like or cryptos like Solana, Bitcoin, Ethereum, maybe Polygon and some of these other ones? And you have to think that there's a chance that it could get lower. This line right here is your line in the sand, right? So right around $80
80
or just
bucks. Yeah.
below 80. If it takes that out, well, you don't have a ton of downside. I mean, for a crypto, it's not that big of a move. And you're looking at right around this $58 level as your next big
Hmm.
support. And again, I would be a buyer there. I would look for a snap back to 80, so big percentage potential move there. But that would be, if this line breaks, then this is your next stopping point right at this point here.
I'm always kind of curious when Bitcoin dominance starts to fall. Normally, that means that money's going into altcoins. And that kind of was the case, but yet at the same time, we were seeing downward trends in the overall sentiment of altcoins. So I'm kind of curious, what do you think is happening? Do you think people are going to cash? What's your thought there?
Yeah, I think that you are starting to see some of the investors in crypto getting a little bit nervous. I think if you look at the Bitcoin chart just a week ago, we were banging on this 48,000 level, and a lot of the alts
Hmm.
were. I mean, Solana had gone from $80 to over
Yep.
140. I mean, that's a 50% move. I mean, more than 50%. It's like 75%. It's incredible type move in these altcoins, and to see such a rejection there, and to see how fast Bitcoin has kind of come back to this 40,000 level, I think it kind of shakes the confidence in the near term for a lot of investors, and they do consider going into cash and just waiting. It's sometimes easier to be in cash and then wait for the breakout and then jump in at that
Mm.
point versus just getting kind of whipped back and forth in this market right now. What I always tell investors is that in the near term, fear and greed are always number one, right? In the longer term, once that emotion kind of subsides, that's where I think a lot of this stuff helps, where the adoption kind of, it becomes a commonplace term to talk about crypto at the dinner table, at the Thanksgiving table. And that's what we need to have this cryptocurrency general market really become a common thing for investors, even elderly investors that maybe don't feel comfortable at this point. They need to start kind of looking at it. And I've always said, regulation, everyone is kind of like the boogeyman talking about it in the crypto space, but you do need some sorts of regulations in there. And I just hope our politicians put the right steps in place, because if you can get solid regulation, if you can have almost FDIC insurance on crypto accounts, I mean, things like that will go a long way towards making all citizens start to invest in crypto. And even pension funds and hedge funds, you want that to occur, because that will be a huge driver in the future of prices on Bitcoin, Ethereum, and many of these others.